is Skyler with Regan. Today we're going to go over the agency floater market, floating rate market, and talk about how these are created because we're creating floating rate bonds off of fixed rate collateral. On my screen here, I have just the Fannie Mae universe, and we look at Fannie 2 and 2.5% coupons. These are the largest individual issuances. You had about $3.5 trillion that was created, about $2.5 trillion that's left outstanding. Okay. So in any given new month, there are new issue mortgage loans that are pooled into these pools. And the current coupon mortgage is about a 6, i.e. the mortgage bond is 6%, and it's backed by 6.5 to 7% coupon underlying loans. You can see here, Fannie 6s, you had about a little over $1 trillion in creation with about 211 billion outstanding. So a lot of these were created a long time ago, but it is the current coupon. It's what's currently being created today. So let's get to a new issue agency floating rate bond. And this floating rate bond is going to be backed off of 7% coupon mortgage bonds, which have a underlying coupon of about 7.9%. So key things we look at on this screen, this is the YT screen on Bloomberg, this is called WAC, weighted average coupon, that the underlying borrower is paying. This is WALA, weighted average loan age. It's about 5 months old. So these borrowers have been in their loans for 5 months. They have on average 350 months left to pay. Their original LTV was 81%. That means they put 19% down on their home loan. And their current LTV, or HPI updated LTV, is also 81, since these loans are only 5 months old. So I just showed this to highlight the collateral that you'll base the floating rate bond off of. In any given month, new issue buyers have the option to create fixed rate bonds out of this or floating rate bonds out of this. Last year was the first year since 2007 where floating rate demand was actually greater than fixed rate demand for CMOs or collateralized mortgage obligations. So let's go to this floating rate bond here. So this is Fannie 2023-4 FB for floating bond. It's not necessarily what that stands for, but you can see here it's floating rate. You have a coupon formula down here. So you can see up here, these loans are 18 months old. They're paying a 770 coupon. They have about 336 months left in them. Your coupon formula is down here. You have 1 month SOFR plus 65 basis points. Now, the rub on some of these floaters, or most floaters, is that there's a cap. So you get capped out at 7%. Because you only have 7% loans underlying this pool, the max cap you can pay out on the floating rate, the max interest rate you can pay out on the floating rate bond is 7. Now your floor, because it's paying SOFR plus 65, your floor is 65 basis points. Okay. So we could see historical coupon on this since it's about 18 months old. Started off at 5.15. That is March of 2023. Today it's paying 5.98. If short-term SOFR goes up, your coupon on the floating rate bond will go up. Well, where is the coupon coming from? So you have that underlying borrower that's paying a 780. You have 770, the underlying bond's paying 7. Now, the inverse of this bond is the SB. Okay, so you have a FB and an SB. That's a little bit complicated. This is called an inverse interest only strip. So whereas this bond here pays both principal and interest, and the interest goes up as short-term rates go up, this bond here pays interest only, it pays no principal. And as the coupon, as SOFR goes up, the coupon on this bond actually goes down. You can see that here. And so voila, 5.15 plus 1.85 add up to 7. So at any given month, these two bonds, coupons, will combine to 7. And we could look at the formula here. It's the inverse. So it's paying -1 times SOFR plus 635 basis points. So the cap here is 635. because the floor on the other bond is 65 basis points, whereas the floor is 0. So as SOFR approaches about 635, 645 actually, or 635 because you're paying plus 65 on the other one. As it approaches that, the coupon on the inverse IO will go towards 0. So I want to illustrate this. We talk about creating agency floaters here. So this is a great screen to look at. So we have the overall structure up here. Net collateral coupon is 7. You have your floater. We went through a lot of this, but down here we want to illustrate this dotted black line. You have your cap rate at 7. You have the cap rate on the inverse IO at 635. Okay. This is SOFR in black. As SOFR rises, the coupon on the floating rate bond goes up commensurately, and the coupon on the inverse IO goes down commensurately. Okay. Here's the floor on the floating rate bond, and here's the floor on the inverse IO. So that's a great illustration. Let's go back to the floating rate bond. And this bond here, there's really only 2 inputs as an investor when you're looking at these. What is my prepayment rate? And I'm going to run 20, 40, and 0. And whether I'm going to run this to constant interest rates, or some would say the spot curve, or forward interest rates, the forward curve. So if I look at the forward SOFR curve, and I look at this almost every day, it starts at 540, and a year from now, it's at 455. That's about an 80 basis point move, 3.5 interest rate Fed moves. A year forward, it's about 4%. So you go from 540 down to about 4 in the next 2 years. So when you're running this to forward curve, let's pull up yield down here, you're going to get a lower yield because your coupon is slowly going down. But you can look at the spread right here. So regardless of what happens at that 20 CPR, whether it's to spot or forward, this is modeling out to roughly 103 to 105 basis points over treasuries. So you have a bond that's around for 4 years with about a 3-year spread duration, but a very small rate duration. The rate duration on this is about a half a year, okay? Because no matter what happens, you're going to have that spread. Now, if rates were to drop almost 2 percentage points, what would happen? Especially on 7.7% coupons, your prepayment rate would go up. So instead of having a 20 CPR, maybe you have a 40 CPR, 40% annualized prepayment rate. So instead of getting a 645 yield, you would still get a 6.07% yield. Pretty good, 140 basis points over the forward curve. Now, if nobody ever prepays again, okay, what would that take? It'd take interest rates maybe going up to, I don't know, 10 to 15%. You'd still get 75 to 80 basis points over the curve, but you would have a tremendous amount of extension. The bond will get a lot longer, but you could see your yield here. So some large benefits of floating rate bonds are, A, you're positioned on the juiciest part of the curve, the front end of the curve. That's where your interest rate duration resides. B, you have really nice spread relative to treasuries. Traditionally, the spread's at about 30 basis points. So if this were at a 30 basis point spread, you have about 2.5 to 3 points of upside in the price. But if that doesn't occur, you're getting this tremendous spread. If rates do drop commensurate with the forward curve, you're going to have a much nicer spread. You're going to shorten up and have over a 6% yield for a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or Ginnie Mae. Those are the 3 largest issuers. Government sponsored or government guaranteed bond. That's floaters in a nutshell. This is over a $400 billion market. You can create floaters in any given month depending on demand. And why we like it is it's on the shortest part of the curve, offers tremendous spread, upside to faster prepayments, and tighter spreads. Thank you.